John, a lot of people are complaining about the last 2 or 3 years. Interest rates got, in their mind, awful high, and that was a factor. Of course, in my eye, we were spoiled with this 3% money for several years, and then when it got up 7 or 8%, it just seemed like it was through the roof. But historically, that's been usable interest rates over the years.
Yeah, it has. And even back in the late 1800s, you could buy a ranch and they were bringing 10% interest. 10% interest is not at all unusual, hasn't been for the whole time. But the the price they were paying for the ranch was much closer to its productive value.
Oh, yeah.
And so as a result, they could handle 10% interest. But now we're up to the point to where the price of a ranch is 10 or 15 times what its productive value is. And so, yes, interest rates are a concern, but it's interest rates on big money per acre because of its appreciated value.
Well, I think about my dad. I always talk about him a lot. And I saw as he got older, he got more conservative with his thinking. And now I'm at that age.
And me too.
and he was very successful. He did a great job. He taught me a lot. I've got to say, I couldn't have had any of the success I've had without the experience of following my dad around. But he never could grasp that the market was changing from cattle to recreation. Mm-hmm. It was always, all of his life, he sold ranches to ranchers. And as this market transitioned more to recreation, he couldn't accept it, and everything was too high. And, I've revolved around that in the last 30 years or so. Recreation's been the focus of our market, but it does seem awful high to me now. But people are still buying ranches and parking money in ranches, and now then with the added benefit of high cattle prices, it's made some of these ranches where they're making a little return on investment now.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, every cattle cycle is the same, but they're all different. And the thing is, now, for the first time in probably, maybe 100 years or maybe even more than 100 years, cattle prices tripled in 1 year. Mm-hmm. I mean, it has jumped up so fast that we're all taken aback by it. We're not sure which fish are cut bait.
And how much it's going to cost to replace those cows you've got. That is the scary part, because we know at some point in time it's going to cheapen up. Right. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the new level and it's going to be this way from now on. I don't know, but it's scary.
And one of the things that I worry about is some of this increase in price. Everything is higher. And I don't know if the price of things has gotten higher or the value of a dollar has gotten to be less. A dollar just doesn't buy what it used to buy.
No.
And that concerns me when you look at a $32 trillion debt. I mean,
I think it's more than that now. That was last week.
Oh, that was last week. But we're moving toward I worry about an overall inflationary rush just because we're printing so much money. Yeah. And we're so far in debt, our national debt. So,
and if we're in the cattle business and we want to see high prices And at this point, I'm going to continue to buy good steaks. But at some point, it's going to be tough for a housewife to go home and put steaks on the table, I think.
When you talk about I think people don't understand or don't know the makeup of the cow-calf business, and it's amazing to me. There are like 700,000 beef cattle operations in the United States. 700,000.
Probably average 15 or 20 cows each.
The people that own between 1 and 99 cows account for 91% of that 700,000. It is amazing the fact that by far the bulk of the people in the beef cattle industry are part-time producers.
Oh yeah, they've got a job in town and 50 acres on the edge of town, and they run 12 cows or whatever, yeah.
There's, I believe, operations that have 2,500 or more beef cows. There's under 200 of them in the entire United States. And I imagine you've done business with about half of them.
So, yeah, I mean.
But that's always surprising.
Yeah, when you think about that there's that few of what we would call your large operations. That, to me, you look back 100, 150 years ago, there was a lot more of those bigger operations, I would think.
In the 1880s, there were operations that were running 40 or 50,000 head of cattle on free land because it was government land.
Wagners, 4.6s, a lot of those old family ranches that they just came in. They were there first, and it was just you just turn them loose. The JAs, all those big outfits.
I think Prairie Land and Cattle was the biggest one at one time, and they had over 150,000 cows. And their ranches went from the Arkansas River in Colorado to the Canadian River in the Panhandle of Texas. That whole entire way across.
And little or no fences, I guess.
Yeah, no fences at all. Yeah. But that was such a strange model then, because if they were willing to go out and go to new territory that still Indian wars were going on, they could use all the land they wanted at absolutely no price. But now that's changed significantly, and this number of small producers, smaller operators, is slowly going down. And I think it's a generational thing, because most of them, they got a job in town, but their dad always had some cows, and they know how to run a few cows. Now that we're getting so urban, I think there'll be fewer and fewer people in that category.
Well, you know, my dad always told me when I was following him around, he said, son, if these old ranch families taught their children to stay on the ranch and work, we'd starve to death in this business. But a lot of the ranches we sell, second, third generation ownership, there's too many mouths to feed out of that ranching operation. And the heirs think about, we've got this very substantial investment here, but I'm not getting much income out of it, so let's sell the ranch. And I think that's something that today, if a ranch family can some way, somehow keep the kids on the ranch and train them and work with them to stay interested in the ranch and keep it together. And of course, you've got to expand, and that's a tough deal with today's prices, expanding that operation. And many people just can't afford to do it. But those that can keep the family together on the ranch, that they've accomplished a lot.
And the other thing they have to do is not have too many kids.
Yeah. Some I know, one heir each generation.
That's one way to preserve.
Yeah.
But that is, it's hard to. it's hard to know how to maintain that operation multi-generationally because, like you say, it begins to
Y'all have done a
segment.
very good job of that.
So far.
You and Bonnie have done a good job of that.
Yeah, all three of our poor boys are in the cattle business, bless their hearts. But they could have done something with their lives, but no.
They've all done good. They've done very well. You raised them right.
She did. It just, when you look back on your life, it's like you think it was all random, it just happened, but then you get to thinking about it, and no, there was a plan, you know, and it's probably a bigger plan than me or you.
Yeah.
There was all these series of just coincidences, you know.
It all fit together and made it work, made it happen.
And you look back and say, golly.
And you know, from my standpoint, the success that I think about, that I've been fortunate to have, I had because of the foundation that my grandfather and my father laid out. Yeah. And you create a relationship with somebody, and you know, the prime example, like Boone Pickens, I worked with him for 20-something years doing deals. Ann Marion on the 4.6s, I worked with her for 50 years. And a lot of it was, you know, creating trust and doing estate planning with them and that sort of thing. And then it finally pays off big time. But it didn't just happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like you say, it's just something you have to work at. It's not. It's like it doesn't just fall in your lap. And if you had the opportunity to come into something through inheritance, that's great. But you can ruin that just overnight if you do, if you want to. And you have to take and nurture that you were given and grow it. And that's
my inheritance was the connections that my father and grandfather started that I fell into. I was very fortunate.
And their reputation.
Yes.
And your reputation has gone right along that same way.
I hope so.
You know it. It has. I mean, that makes all the difference, I think, especially in your business. You know, if somebody knows that you're not going to misrepresent it on either side, buyer or seller, and they have confidence in what you can do.
I hope so.
I can tell you so.
John, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice, what would you have to say?
Well, of course, this gets very philosophical, but I would say pursue what you love to do, and be logical and be methodical about what you decide. That is, don't have stars in your eyes about this is going to be big fun and it'll all just come to me. Get ready to work and work hard, but work hard in something you enjoy. Look at what your dad, he loves to sell ranches and works hard at it. And that's how I think you're successful. You can't get into it because that looks like something where I can get rich. You better get into it.
You got to enjoy what you're doing.
Because you want to do it. You want to get up in the morning thinking about one of these things, thinking about selling a ranch, or thinking about how I'm going to work these cattle, or how I make that all work.